But let's talk about what's happening in the US. And the Trump administration is on track to break a record of the number of deportations being carried out. So since Trump's return to office in January, the administration has deported over 500,000 illegals, more than 1.6 million have self-deported, and almost 500,000 have been arrested. Ami, it certainly looks like that's not going to be slowing down anytime soon. And, Donald Trump is really delivering on one of his promises here.
This is what the American people elected him for. This is one of the main reasons why they wanted him in office, is because they wanted to stop the illegal invasion into this country. That's exactly what he did. Right? You're talking about a 97% decrease in people cross the border. Not 9.7, 97. Think about that number, how massive it is. And look, there was a quote with the administration that said, we need to deport illegals so we can stop them from coming across the border. Want to disincentivize them. Was that Donald Trump? No, that was actually Barack Obama. Now this president has a long way to actually catch up with the deporter-in-chief, Barack Obama, who got rid of nearly 3 million illegals. I hope Donald Trump is going to beat that record. He's on his way. But it just goes to show this is not necessarily, doesn't have to be a political issue, right? It doesn't have to be Republican, Democrats. People care, left or right, that they're not having illegal aliens streaming across the border with no vetting process. That's why they elected President Trump, and he is fulfilling his promise.
100%. Ami, I want to talk to you about what's been happening in Portland. Now, you've spent plenty of time there. I've seen you take to the streets in Portland, but there has been chaos over the weekend, again outside an ICE facility following the No Kings protest. And independent journalists say that these Antifa-like thugs were smashing windows, becoming violent. Let's just take a look. An appeals court has also ruled that Trump can deploy National Guard troops into Portland, a big victory for Donald Trump. But can you talk to us about what it's like after spending a fair bit of time there, seeing what the protests are like that the media calls peaceful?
Yeah, and by the way, just to correct you one thing, you say Antifa-like. No, this is Antifa, right? This is exactly what Antifa is all about. Antifa are violent thugs that are oftentimes armed, and they have no issue at all with deploying violence against a journalist, against a regular person in the street, or against federal officers or police officers. This is what we're dealing with. They have weaponized the left's rhetoric, and they are using it literally as weapons. When I went, nothing has changed. You see that footage, and it looks like you're in some South American dictatorship, right? You think that's what's going on. This is what's happening here because you have people in the streets trying to overthrow the government. They are attacking federal facilities with weapons, with firebombs. Nothing's changed. When I was there a number of years ago, the same image, what you just showed me could have been when I was there. And by the way, I'll be going back there, obviously, because this is the tip of the sword in terms of how we're dealing with hard left radicalism. When it comes to a little more nuanced approach, look, when it comes to bringing in federal troops, right, the National Guard, and I've been saying this over and over again, I have two minds. There is a time for it, right? For example, when the LA riots were happening, when they're attacking federal facilities, like they are in Portland, that is an absolute credible need to use federal intervention to stop violence against federal buildings. I'm not so for it when it comes to policing outside of Washington, D.C. D.C. is a separate issue because it's literally part of the federal government, because it's just a district, not a state or in this country. Not such a fan of using it in blue cities like Chicago unless there's a credible threat against federal buildings like they are in Portland. Then by all means, let's have at it.
Okay. Let's talk about New York City, where you live, and a new poll has indicated that there could be trouble for Zohran Mamdani if Republican Curtis Sliwa drops out. Now, the report by Gotham Polling found that if Sliwa drops out, around 44% of New Yorkers would vote for Mamdani, and around 40% would vote for Andrew Cuomo. So that's just a margin of error, and sorry, I should say, with a margin of error of 4 points, that puts Cuomo with a striking distance. But looking at the betting markets, Polymarket has Mamdani a 93% chance of becoming mayor after next month's election. Donald Trump was asked about this today.
Mr. President, a new poll shows that if Curtis Sliwa dropped out of the New York mayoral race, then Andrew Cuomo would only trail Mamdani by 4 points. Would you call Curtis Sliwa to drop out of the race so that can happen?
Well, I looked at the polls, and looks like we're going to have a communist as the mayor of New York. It'll be very interesting. But here's the good news. He's got to go through the White House. Everything goes through the White House, at least this White House it does. And we'll have to see what happens. But if he dropped out, he's not going to win. And not looking too good for Cuomo either. But maybe, I don't know, if he dropped out, maybe Cuomo would have a little bit of a chance, but not much. Because it looks like the lead is, it's not a great lead, but it's big enough that he should be able to win. So, you know, I don't know that I want to get involved. It's really a question of, would I rather have a Democrat or a communist? And I would rather have a Democrat than a communist.
The president went on to say that it's sad to see what's happening in New York, and said that with a communist in charge, if you go back thousands of years, you'll find out that it has never worked. I mean, Ami, you live in New York City. How are you feeling about what's likely to happen with Mamdani, you know, potentially being elected as mayor?
I'm not feeling great, Gabriella. I'm not feeling great, right? Look, the betting market, I know you showed the crypto market there in terms of their betting. Sounds a little high to me. The wise guys in Vegas have between 75 and 80%, which was growing from week over week in about last month. But look, Curtis Sliwa does not seem to be dropping out. I continue getting texts, 4 or 5 texts a day from the Sliwa people telling me to vote. And I respond, I'm sure it goes to the ether, saying, please drop out, please drop out, please drop out. He has a chance. Look, if he drops out, Mamdani has a chance to lose. Look, I never thought I'd say this in my life, but old people in New York, I'm kind of hoping for them to come through, because the vast majority of undecideds who are over 50 are going to break toward Cuomo. So if that could be it, look, because it would be super tight, like you said, right? It's gonna be within the margin of error if Sliwa drops out. So I think it's vital that Sliwa drops out to give Cuomo a shot. And also, like the black vote has got to come out, right? The black vote went all to Cuomo in the primary, right? They shut out Mamdani. So I'm hoping the black and Hispanic vote will also turn out, because they're also going to lead toward Cuomo. And the last point I'll make on this, you know, the president alluded to it, but this is really important. Nearly $100 billion of New York's annual budget comes from D.C., okay? And that goes through the president. Okay, that's almost 40% of the total annual budget of New York. And New York is having a lot of fiscal issues. We can't pay our bills, right? We're in trouble. They're raising the prices of buses and of subways because we can't foot the bill. If you take a 30% or 40% number down from that, New York's in real trouble. So yeah, he better make the president is putting his finger on the thing here, because he understands it goes through DC.
So finally, before I get to what's happening in the Middle East, Ami, Joe Rogan's blasted Gavin Newsom for his social media strategy, labelling it stupid, and also taking aim at Gavin Newsom for the way he governs California. Listen to this.
Yeah, when is he coming on? He's talking some on Twitter.
I know, it's like, you think that's going to work? Like, that's so stupid. Like, this is such a bad look.
Yeah.
It's such a bad choice.
There's a little desperation in it.
But it's just stupid. It's like, this is a bad strategy. Like, I probably would have had him on.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, nah, what are you doing?
There is a fun version where you just do it and cook them, you know?
He'll cook himself.
I mean, that seems to be
all you have to
happening.
do is just ask him questions.
Yeah, it's like, why are people leaving?
Well, why do you say this thing all the time where you rattle off all the good things about California? When anybody says something bad about California, it's like, #1 in Fortune 500 companies, #1 in higher education, #1. It was all that before you were there. It was all that forever. It's because the weather's perfect, man. It has nothing to do with you.
But Ami, Gavin Newsom has gained ground on Vice President JD Vance in a new hypothetical poll of the 2028 presidential race. According to polling by Emerson College, if the two are against each other in the next election cycle, 46% would support JD Vance and 45% would support Gavin Newsom. I mean, who are the 45%? So, look, Joe Rogan really taking aim at Gavin Newsom's social media strategy there. I agree with him. I think it's absolutely bizarre, and I would suggest that it's not helping him, but maybe it is, Ami.
Look, I've said this before. I said this for a while. Don't sleep on Gavin Newsom. He didn't go on Joe Rogan, but he has a history of going on a lot of shows that are not a comfortable spot for him. Actually, I give him credit for that. And he cosplays well as a normal Democrat. Okay, but that's what it is. It is cosplaying. He is more on the left, obviously, than the center. And you can see that the policies in California. But he does a really, really good job of pretending to be moderate. And look, before he can go, that poll against JD Vance is great, but he's got to win the nomination first. And the person who is consistently in the top 5 more than any other politician is, wait for it, it's Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris didn't run for governor of California because she is biding her time, unbelievably thinking she has another bite at the apple. And she is polling well. I don't think she'll win it, but she currently is polling well. And Gavin Newsom is right up there. And so is AOC, frankly, and other radicals. So I think that it's going to be fascinating. Gavin Newsom, again, I talked about how many texts I get from Curtis Lewa. I get 2 or 3 emails a day from Gavin Newsom, his campaigns. They're pushing hard. They're going after me, trying to get me to support him. They're trying something. So it's going to be look. This race is going to be absolutely fascinating. Not just the general, but frankly, I think the Democratic nomination process is going to be even more fascinating because the soul of the Democratic Party is at stake, frankly.
Absolutely. No, it is going to be fascinating to watch. Kamala Harris, well, she's certainly getting headlines again as she's on her book tour or media blitz promoting her new book, 107 Days, about the world's worst election campaign. She claims it's the shortest, of course, and that's why she didn't win, according to Kamala Harris. But she's also coming to Australia, Ami. I don't know how many of us are too excited about that, but you can tell that she's gearing up for another potential run. Now, we mentioned, of course, JD Vance, and he is in Israel at the moment. He's attempting to stabilise the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire and hoping to advance the Gaza talks into the second phase of the deal, which of course includes disarming Hamas and the withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Strip. Now, Donald Trump has said that multiple Middle Eastern nations are on standby to wipe out Hamas if the terror group continues its aggression. He wrote on Truth Social, numerous of our now great allies in the Middle East and areas surrounding the Middle East have explicitly and strongly, with the great enthusiasm, informed me that they would welcome the opportunity at my request to go into Gaza with a heavy force and straighten out Hamas if Hamas continues to act badly in violation of their agreement with us. The love and spirit for the Middle East has not been seen like this in 1,000 years. It is a beautiful thing to behold. I told these countries and Israel, not yet. There is still hope that Hamas will do what is right. If they do not, an end to Hamas will be fast, furious, and brutal. Ami, what do you see happening here? Is it likely that Donald Trump will be calling on those now great allies to take out Hamas, or how do you see this playing out?
Now, look, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, I'll start with the good stuff. When you look, the Middle East has been remade by this president, okay? With a brief 4-year hiatus in between of failure. You had the first 4 years and the Abraham Accords, or he says the Abraham Accords, an unbelievable game changer in terms of the strategic map of the Middle East, right? You have enemies for generations coming to peace with Israel. And on the other side of his this last 8 months, 9 months of this presidency, obviously you saw the hopefully will be the end of the Gaza war with Israel. And to see all of these guys who were enemies of not just, by the way, not just of Israel, they're also closet enemies of the United States, coming together and say, we want to work with you to make sure Hamas is no longer a power force in the Levant is incredible. It truly, truly is. The problem is there is no, look, when Bibi set out among his goals for this Gaza war, and one of them was the destruction of Hamas, I knew it was a mistake going in. Hamas is not, you just can't go in and kill 50,000 Hamas people and all of a sudden Hamas is gone. It's an ideology as much as it is a political force and a terrorist force, right? And if you go, and I did recently, if you go to the West Bank, right, not in Gaza, and you ask anybody under 50 who you support, without just about every single person under 50, every single one, I asked that they support Hamas, right? That even though they saw the destruction of Gaza because of the support of Hamas and what Hamas has caused the Gazans, they still support them. And there was an election today, and there won't be, right? Because the PLO doesn't want that to happen. Hamas would win without a question. So it's not so easy just to wipe them out. I hesitate to use that as a goal because it's a kind of an unachievable goal, to be honest.
Okay, Ami Horowitz, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you in Australia.
It's my pleasure.